Hello, Sergey here from Check and Go, and today we're doing a little bit of a different video. It's like more a story than a video about a car. We were dealing it for a few months because it was a difficult job to do. As you can see at the photo, you cannot see very much which car it is. It's a Peugeot 3008 Hybrid 4, and we had a struggle with the car that didn't start in the first place, and it didn't charge up. So everything started with a shop contacted me that they had the car there like this, and also the owner contacted me. They had this car which didn't charge up, it started and it stalls out, and they had a lot of problems. So they thought to check the battery, the high voltage battery. You see here it on the top. It's the high voltage battery with 220 volts. And so how it begins, they said the battery is bad, that's why the car is not charging. I came to the car, I took out the battery. It's about 8 bolts, 2 connectors. Take it out and you can take it apart. When I took it apart, the battery looks like this. This is the inside of that metal box. We checked the whole battery, the whole inside, all the connections, all the wires. You can see it's all perfect, no green crusties, no nothing. The battery had a low charge, and 2 or 3 of the cells had very low charge, about 3 volts instead of 7.5. So we took it all apart like this. You see the bus bars here. This middle part goes to the fuse and recharged all the batteries, and they woke up, everything worked, everything seems fine. The battery was charged up to 220 volts. All the cells were also calibrated, all the cells were then at the end put in parallel so they can calibrate itself. So after 2 days we left it another 2 days, so you can see if there was a voltage drop, and there was no voltage drop on the battery. So we were sure to take it back to the car, put it back in, and this is how we balance the battery. If anybody asks, we put all the cells in parallel, and we left it there for a day. We take it back, the shop put the battery back in, but it remained the same. The car started up, it was less faults, but it was still faulty, still didn't charge, started, stalled out, and then didn't start again until you clear all the faults or take the battery, the 12-volt battery apart. So the first codes we got in, you can see it's a 2013 with 115,000 kilometers. It's a low mileage car, and we had those batteries circuit cut off, hybrid internal. This is the way, because they thought everything was a problem, this one. But the yellow one, which I already highlighted, was that one that was messing with me. So missing resolver, signal incorrect. Everything else was not was because of that. So the electric motor cannot activate. The traction of the battery is not programmed because it programs itself after a few minutes of drive. Everything was a problem. So we made a deal with the owner and the shop there, and told us, take the car, look at it, take a look and see what you can do with it. So first time we checked the car, we checked everything. and can say data is the mostly prominent part here, the data-driven diagnosis. So first we have to make head and toe what this resolver means. So simple, we found the diagram of the car, this diagram of the computer, the hybrid battery computer, which it is here on the bottom right. This is the computer. It has two connectors on the top and the connector for the high voltage battery you can see in the middle, the orange cable, but it is not enough. It has also, you can see here, it's from another Peugeot, but it is the same. It has this connector on the top. This is for the high voltage battery, those two small connectors for communication, and at the bottom it has four connections. It has two high voltage connections, one 12-volt connector here, and you cannot see it here in the back. It has another here in the back. It has another 28-pin connector for the communication, which was the corporate of all. I can tell you this, how this goes. So what's the resolver? Firstly, here we have the complete diagram. This in the middle is the hybrid ECU. Here on the left is the alternator. But here on the top we have, on the right, the electric motor and the differential, or the as they call it, the differential. It is part of the motor itself. And here on the left we have the high voltage battery. That's simple. The resolver is this part here, those orange cables, which are not orange, but those cables come from the motor to the ECU, and they carry info about the motor and the state of the motor, the position of the motor. The resolver is practically the position of the high voltage motor in the back. And after checking everything out, we found this. The connector on the bottom was broken off, as you can see between my fingers, and some of those cables were smashed. You can see it's a broken cable also here. Everything was destroyed. This connector was covered with tape, and you cannot see it in the first place. So you can see here how it's laid out. This is the bottom left connector on the ECU. This is the first part of it. So we took this connector out. We fixed the connector first, and so what is happening. The first thing we noticed, that before we had resolver. This was the problem before, and after that the car was behaving differently. Normally this car does not have a ref counter. It has a percentage counter on the left side of the dashboard. So the percentage counter, when you start the car up, should go to 0. I will show you here. This is how it looks like. So on the left side you can see the gauge goes from 0 to 90 to 100% of the power. From 0 to 20 is eco, and on the bottom part it goes to charge. So when you started the car up, the gauge was like you see it here, like disconnected, like the car is off, nothing happened. When we fixed the connector, at the end we changed the complete wiring loom. This is the wiring that goes beneath the car, underneath the car. It's like those two connectors you see here, the labels, and the bottom of this computer under the car. And when I fix this mess, we changed the loom. We got it for 30-40 euros, and now change it, the whole loom between the battery and the motor, and instantly this went to 0 when you started the car. But we have still a problem. The car was not charging and was not making power, so it's not charging the high voltage battery, it's not charging the 12-volt battery. So we had to fix it. So we kept digging. We found another problem on another wire. This is the high voltage wiring loom that comes from the alternator. You can see it here from the alternator on the top, this part, and also you can see it here. It's those orange wires that come from the engine, from the alternator. The alternator is charging the high voltage battery back to this part at the bottom here. See it in green. This is the part which is offended. How we know it? It has another problem, and it went from a missing resolver, the absence of coupling, code P1ABF, reduction gear, absence of coupling. So we were thinking firstly what going wrong, if this cable is really doing that. The reduction gear is here, it's this one. This is coupled to the motor. This is the reduction gear, or the differential on the electric motor. So we checked all those wires. Maybe we got a defective loom. The only problem was there was no shims beneath the position sensor. We placed the right shims under the position sensor. They make no difference at all. Check the grounds, check the powers. Everything worked out. Everything was there. So this is not the problem. The problem was elsewhere. The problem was in this cable here. This orange cable that comes from the alternator, those 3 wires on the left side that goes on the top of on the bottom of the ECU. How we found out? It was a difficult one. We saw this broken wire here, but didn't know if it was really broken inside. So because I don't have the tools needed here, we took the car to the dealer, to a dealer that thankfully got the right tools to check the high voltage wires with 500 volts. They checked it, and this wire was broken inside. Why it was calling a reduction gear, but the reduction gear has all the couplings good, the motor had all the couplings good, and it didn't make sense here. After changing the cable, we opted for a used one also, I got it for around 100 euros maybe. Changed the gear, and this was gone. We are there at the dealer, changed the cable, checked everything, checked the alternator, checked the battery again. The car started and stalled. That was the symptoms. They had this remained, the U1213, and the P1B1B was there. After clearing all the faults, everything changed, but the car was still running weird. So I don't have a printout of the codes, but I have something else which helped a lot. We checked the diag box, we checked everything. Those codes have nothing written in the diag box. So thankfully, again, to data, we opened Haynes and Autodata. Autodata has nothing on it. Haynes had those codes. We had this code here, so I will highlight it. We had this code here, this code here, and this code here. We had 3 codes, and these 4 codes. These codes were in the hybrid control issue: the U1286 CAN hybrid nectar, the P1664 engine torque, and the P1B1B, the internal for the hybrid ECU, and the U1288 CAN hybrid network. Cause of the fault. Thankfully, we were at the dealer. We couldn't do it ourselves. Update hybrid system unit software. So we did that. We updated the ECU, the hybrid system ECU, and we updated the battery ECU for good measure. So everything was updated, everything was up to date. The solution: connect all the diagnostic tool. So we had an original diag box at the dealer. We are still the dealer. It took us nearly 4 hours to find out this. Delete all the fault codes. We did it before, but I did it again. And do this. Carry out a basic calibration procedure for an alternator starter motor. This was the end solution. So the car was damaged in the front, in the back. The basic calibration had to be done because the car was out of business for, I don't know, maybe a year and a half. I had it for 3 or 4 months. But the point here is data-driven information, data-driven diagnostics. Check out for the basics. We checked all the wires. We find broken wires. Thankfully, the broken wires were the problem. Thankfully, no ECU was broken inside. Thankfully, we checked it, but everything was there. So don't rely on one source of information. Go around, find what is what. We get original schemes, original wire schemes. We found which part is which. The problem here, the reduction gear was misleading. This code was totally misleading. There was no information. There was only, we used common sense here. What could be wrong? We checked everything 3 times. It was difficult to find. We find that wire. We tested it. It was bad. It was broken inside. But at the end, also the thank to the dealer, Autodealer Kaučić in Kran. They were great guys. Call them out if you need anything for Peugeot. Go to them. They're great guys. They're helping. They have a great team there. They helped out with the updating of software. Okay, the calibration procedure could be done also with the launch software I have, but the updates were done by them, so it helped at the end. It helped. They helped also with checking the high voltage wire. So that's it. The customer is happy. The car is driving right now. It's charging the high voltage battery. It's charging normally the 12-volt battery. All the faults are gone. Everything is okay. Happy customer. But it was a roller coaster. Find out what those codes mean, why there's no power. Everything was there, but nothing was working because someone messed the cables, hid some broken wires with tape, with covers. I don't know. It was a bad job at the end. It was badly done before, and that's why it was a problem at the end. So thank you everyone. If you like this video, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one on the field.